a property investor, I feel like we deal 75% of the time with people that cannot do their job. The day of completion on an auction property, don't hear a thing from them again. They ghost us. They send the completion statement and they put the wrong figures. By like 10 grand, they're out. And it just makes me furious, actually, that they're so incompetent at their jobs. When you've been in property for a certain amount of time, the worst things that you think can happen have generally happened. You have to have an inner fire, and that's something that can't be taught. You know, like those candles, that when you blow them out, they come back again. And you need to be that, and it has to come from within, because you can't keep expecting someone to light your candle. And I'd never done a proposal before. I put together the worst proposal you have ever seen in your life. It was like a 10-year-old put this proposal together. It was all multicoloured different fonts, different size fonts. It was an attack on the eyes. He saw it, looked beyond the amateurness of me, instantly was like, these are amazing, let's go. And then we just rolled them out.
Mark your calendars. The 2025 Property Developer Show is coming to 5 major cities across the UK, bringing the best service providers and developers together under one roof. On the 5th of March, we kick off in the first show at Milton Keynes, followed by Bristol on the 30th of April, Birmingham on the 16th of July, and then we're heading north to Manchester on the 10th of September, followed by our final stop in Newcastle upon Tyne on the 15th of October. Don't miss out on connecting with other developers, service providers, and industry leaders. Visit propertydevelopershow.co.uk to book your free ticket today. Welcome to another episode of the Property Developer Show, the podcast. Today, I'm joined by Kristina, who is a former professional singer turned property investor. She's written a book about her investing journey, and she's here today to share more insights. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, do you know what? We'll start with the elephant in the room. And you've come in today not particularly happy on a completion date that was meant to take place today.
Well, it was meant to take place on Friday.
What's the backstory, as much as you can say?
So basically, I always use private investors because they're always really, they've never let me down. It's a really easy process. My solicitor, we've done it for years, basically. And one of my friends said, oh, you should really use bridging as well, because the funds will go further. And I was like, well, I've never needed to up to now, but okay, we'll give it a go. So she recommended this company who I went directly with. She gave me the contact. She was like, she's really good. Had a call with her. She was really professional. I said to her, I use private investors. Is that okay? And she was like, absolutely fine. To be honest with you, it's nothing to do with us. Your solicitor deals with all of that. We just provide the funds for the 70%. And I was like, brilliant. Okay. So the first week, everything was fine. It seemed to go quite quickly. And then the week before completion, we hadn't heard anything. And I said to my solicitor, have you heard anything from them? Can you ask them to start thinking about releasing funds?
And this is under auction conditions as well, isn't it?
Auction conditions. So it has to complete within a certain time frame. So I'm actually in a full sense of security because we're not hearing anything, it all just seemed like everything was fine. Anyway, the day before completion, I emailed the contact and say, just checking, are you in a position to release funds? Have we heard anything? So she replies and sends this email, honestly, this long. It's just saying, this is what is outstanding and all these points, all these documents. And my solicitor is really good. She's dead responsive. We're backwards and forwards all day. And I just thought, that's not like my solicitor. She won't have missed that. So I forwarded it to my solicitor and said, this is what they're saying is outstanding. Well, my solicitor's just absolutely not. I replied to all of these things 10 days ago. And then she basically screenshots all of her emails. And she's like, I responded to this on this day. All of these things were responded to a week ago. You've not replied. We've not heard anything from you. So she's now really annoyed because it's double work for her. Absolutely. So she's like, I'll do it again, but we have done all of it. We've been over this. So they're asking for the same things over and over again. Then they send the completion statement and they put the wrong figures by 10 grand. They're out too much. They're going to give us too much money, but it just doesn't add up with the loan agreement. All the stuff that I've signed is totally different to the completion statement. She's basic stuff, isn't it? It's so basic. So my solicitor's I'm going to have to go back and say to them, can you readjust the completion statement? So that was the morning of the completion on Friday. Don't hear a thing from them again. literally don't hit, they ghost us. So like the day of completion on an auction property, so I'm going to some solicitor, I'm sure we'll hear from them, because no one's going to ghost you on the day of completion. Like, surely who would do that? Anyway, we hear nothing from them. So my solicitor says, can we have an extension just till Monday? I'm sure it'll be fine. Monday comes, we hear nothing. I ring my contact now and I'm like, she doesn't answer the phone. She puts it to voicemail. 2 hours later, she rings me back and she says, I've spoken to the underwriter. They're going to ring your solicitor. They're going to have a quick chat, but we are in a position to release funds today, so everything will be fine. I'm like, great. So I email my solicitor and I'm like, they've pulled the finger out. It's all going to be fine. We're going to complete today. My solicitor replies, no, we're not. I've spoken to them. They now want wet signatures. They don't want anything scanned over. They want hard copies, and they now want extra documents from the angel investor. I'm like, what? Why didn't you do this days ago? Like, why are we now in extra time? So now she's going to have to go back to the auction house and say, actually, we're not in a position. And it just makes me furious, actually, that they're so incompetent at their jobs. And now potentially there might be fees that I have to pay when actually my solicitor and myself, they've done everything we were meant to do, and actually they're just shit.
Yep.
Which makes me never want to use bridging again.
Well, I wouldn't be put off by bridging. Bridging is a good tool.
Yeah, well, I know. And I don't want to do that because it's like being closed-minded. But when you're like, it's important stuff. It's like, and we were kind of alluding to this a little bit before, without being a neckhead. I've turned up in a terrible mood today. Usually I'm like, if I'm in a really bad mood. So you've got the worst of me. But I do feel like, as a property investor now, I feel like we deal 75% of the time with people that cannot do their jobs. Like, they just don't respond. They're not capable of doing their jobs, or they're too lazy, or just something in the system right now is not working. And it makes it so frustrating when you are someone that, you are driven, you are doing you do everything you're meant to do, and then it falls apart because someone else is just crap at their job, or they just don't care enough.
Yeah. I listened to yours and Callum's Hustling for Housing's interview this morning before you came on, and you said something that really stuck out to me, which was, you have to be comfortable, or is something to do with being stressed, being comfortable with stress, or living in that comfort. And I think that is here's a prime example of that situation.
Yeah, because you with all the best will in the world, people just let you down. They just do. They let you down. And I think that's in business across the board. I don't think this is a property thing. I think this is a business thing. I think people in the UK right now, business owners, are frustrated because you feel like you're wading through mud.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think property is very people orientated.
Yeah.
In every step of that process.
100%.
What's kind of your, like, the mindset you're in now? What's kind of your way of now, decompressing?
Breathing exercises. Having a good old cry. Honestly, just breathing. It's so funny you should say that, because I've spent the whole of January ill, and there has been that question of like last year I did a lot of deals, and the year before I didn't. And it was a conscious decision the year before of like, I actually want to try and rebalance my nervous system. And I think I spoke about that. I made a conscious decision of like, I've had all of these years of buying, and I wanted a year off, and I enjoyed that year, but then I got bored, and I'm just quite obsessive with whatever I do. I'll do that thing. So I was like, I'm not buying. So I didn't buy. And then now I'm like, I'm buying again, and just take on too much. And the whole of January I felt ill, and I thought, is this just stress? Because you're just living in this constant and just, this is the tiny part. I could go on and on and on about flips that are meant to complete, and then the buyer's solicitors useless, and we don't hear from, they don't reply to anything. And there's all these different things that go on. And I think there's an element, and I've had a real think about this, where there's a part of me that almost needs to just go, fuck it. Like, sometimes you have to let go, but then I don't want my standards to drop because they're not great at what, do you know what I mean? So it's like a balancing act of, have you heard the Mel Robbins thing, let them?
I haven't, no.
So it's like when, you can have all these opinions about how you can help people, and like, they shouldn't be doing that, or if they did that, they would be so much happier. If only they went to the gym, and you have all these things, and then there's just an element of just going, just let them. Like, and I have it with my kids where I'm like, I just want to protect them, and it takes so much energy. Sometimes I think, actually, let them fall over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let them learn, you know. So I think I need to incorporate a little bit of let them and have more boundaries, like work-life boundaries, because I used to be so good. And then I had kids and my time became less and less and less. And then the serviced accommodation portfolio takes a lot more time than the buy-to-let. So I think as I've become, like, I've had less time because of my circumstances with family, my boundaries have slipped, and I check emails at night. I text back coaching clients out of hours. So it's been a real wake-up call, actually. And I'm going into this year just being like, no, like strict boundaries. Because that's why I started it. I didn't want a job.
Yeah.
So I would have given myself a job.
Yeah, it's self-inflicted stress.
100%. 100%. So I think there's a lot of stress that just that we can't do that much about. So it's just how we deal with it, and just being a little bit more chilled, and breathing exercises.
Yep, I appreciate that. Do you think, though, like on that journey, though, if you think back to when you first started and the problems that you had then, because I was listening, I suppose for context, you were saying, you know, you took that leap of faith and your parents were like, oh, it was a scam, and had your accountant ring you, and do you think, because that you must have been in a similar headspace then, but just in a different manner, in a sense of like, oh my goodness me, like, you know, where do I go from here kind of thing. Do you think that it's kind of the different levels of problems that you have am I kind of making sense with what I'm sort of saying?
Yeah, like how incomparable are the stresses now versus them?
Yes,
is that what you?
Exactly that. Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah. So I think now the things that used to stress me out just don't at all now. They like just bounce off you, because I think you just become bigger as a person and you become more resilient. So the things that would stress me then don't stress me now at all, because things that when you've been in property for a certain amount of time, the worst things that you think can happen have generally happened, and you survive them, and you're like, actually, it's never the end of the world, and you just learn, and you get better and you get more resilient. So I just think it's lots of these little things that compound, and I think it's when you just have too many tabs open in your brain. I think it's just a compounding effect of that, rather than like everything feeling like it's going to swallow you. It's not that. I think it's just you just have too many tabs open, and that over long periods of time just drain your energy.
One thing that helps me, and it's only a phrase, and I always say, this too shall pass, and that whether I'm, you know, on cloud nine, something's going really well, or whether I'm rock bottom, I always think this too shall pass.
Yeah.
And I always embrace the situation that I'm in. And I think I've become a lot better over the last few years, particularly with how difficult property's been over the last 3 or 4 years. So I think it's just finding them coping mechanisms. And I shared a quote on my Instagram story yesterday. It was something along the lines of, don't wish for less problems, wish for broader shoulders.
Yeah, so true.
And it's having that sort of outlook that I think just keeps you sane more than anything. Because otherwise, I would be in an early grave.
100%. And I think
you
just have to have an inner fire. And that's something that can't be taught. You can't teach people to have grit and to have, because you will get knocked down, and you can't teach people to have somewhere, even when you're shattered and you need a break, have a pause, but don't quit. Have a pause, have a week off if that's what you need to like rebuild yourself. But there has to be something, you know, like those candles that when you blow them out, they come back again. You need to be one of those candles where you blow it out, it's dead. And then like you look away and then it's like come back again. You need to be that. And it has to come from within, because you can't keep expecting someone to light your candle. You've just got to keep relighting it. And I think that's what it takes to be a business owner and a property investor in the UK, right? For whatever reason, that is what it takes.
Absolutely. What do you think is that ignition for you? What drives you?
Well, gosh, how deep do you want to go? Do you want to turn this into a therapy session?
Well, it looks that way.
I think, well, I don't know if I've got like a fake answer and an honest answer. The honest answer would be, I think it's because I was adopted as a baby. So I just think I had a lot of, I don't know what the word is, trauma, or just maybe, I think when you're adopted as a baby and you go in foster and you're adopted, I think something very early on kicks in, this survival mechanism, this fire, I think, that maybe, yeah, I don't, and it's one of those things you're never going to know, because I'm not going to know how my life would have been had I have not, but I definitely think it's something I've always had, and I've always felt different from like other children. I always have gone through my whole life feeling like I'm a bit different, and you know, and that could be an ADHD thing as well, to be fair. But I think really that's probably the answer.
Do you think people need to experience that to go on and do, you know, like run a business or be successful? Do you think people need that sort of callous, in a sense, of what their life experience has been?
No. I mean, it is interesting, because I reckon if we were to interview all the business owners, like how many of them maybe were bullied or had trauma, it would be interesting to see what the results look like. But I just think actually for entrepreneurs, we're just wired a little bit differently for whatever reason. So I don't know. And wouldn't it be lovely if like you didn't have to go through it and you had a really gorgeous upbringing with no trauma, and then you're just a dead successful entrepreneur?
Yeah,
that'd be the dream, wouldn't it?
That's
But I don't.
a paradox, I think.
Yeah, but I just don't know if it's possible, really.
No, it's really an interesting subject. I always kind of ask these types of questions on the podcast because it's good to get people's take on what makes them successful in a way, because I think, you know, that's why a lot of people tune into podcasts. It's to get snippets of information that maybe they relate to, or maybe they've not realized. And, you know, someone that's similar to you, similar sort of personality, environment, might be thinking, oh, well, you know, if Kristina can do it, I can do it. And if she's done it that way. And just, I think there's no black and white picture of success. I think everyone has a different version of it. I think it's just really important to try and pull in those common themes that I see in guests and successful people. And often they have not had a straightforward upbringing.
Yeah, so is that what you notice then? There's something.
Yeah, there's, you know, whether it be a driver of acceptance initially, but then that turns into something bigger once they realize that actually what I'm creating is not just about acceptance, it's about accepting myself for who I am. And people evolve sort of thing over that time. So
I do think there's like an element of like wanting to prove yourself. Or I think for me, certainly when I was younger, I really wanted security. I really wanted security. And a funny thing, actually, there's an interesting way that I found out I was adopted, which I won't go into. It was really tricky, like sort of growing up with various things going on. But when I officially found out that I was adopted, it was during a time I was being bullied as well. And we were living like in the Highlands of Scotland, and I was away from my nan and granddad, which were really like the closest people to me. I didn't really have anyone around me that I trusted. And I remember when I found out, like the way that I described it at the time was I felt like the bricks had been pulled away from my house. And I still think now, I'm like, gosh, isn't that interesting that I'm now in a bricks and mortar business? And I don't know whether I've like craved to that, like no one's going to take this from me, or do you know what I mean? Like I often wonder, but yeah, we'll never know.
Just very quickly interrupting this episode, have you got a property deal in mind? Want to build or grow your portfolio but unsure how to obtain funding? No problem. At Roma Finance, they love to lend. The borrower-first approach means Roma deliver flexible, tailored solutions that accommodate the diverse needs and experience of developers across residential and commercial projects. With a flexible criteria, Roma take time to understand each borrower's unique circumstances. Roma's attentive team are always equipped to handle and take on your requests. They will guide and support you throughout the property journey. Colleagues and customer relations are the beating heart of their business. Don't forget to explore Roma's website, romafinance.co.uk, for helpful resources, including articles and case studies to guide your financial decisions. Remember, Roma Finance love to lend. Your property goals are only a call or email away. Now back to the episode. No, I think, it's a therapy session that I'm not qualified to run, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I think it's important because it forms a basis of where you are today. So kind of on the property point then, what sort of things what's the deal that you've managed to secure at auction? What does that look like?
So it's a flip. This year has been the year last year and this year are the year of flips. And I found a bit of a niche in that everything that I'm buying has been, well, actually, the cheapest thing I bought last year was $39,999. Can you believe it?
Wow.
Under the stamp duty threshold.
One of them a year or a month, please.
Gorgeous. So, yeah, everything I'm buying is like 40 to 90 tops. And then flipping them on for, like, the one for 40 is being flipped on for 100. And then up to the 160 mark. So it's very much like the first time buyer market.
And what's your kind of spend in between?
Anything from 10 to 20 on average.
And you just new kitchen, new bathroom, redecorating,
carpets. Yeah, it's as straightforward as possible. And it's literally like rinse and repeat. So the kitchens are the same, the bathrooms are pretty much the same, really modern. Just something a bit different to what other people are doing, like really eye-catching, and also like more than what people would expect for that price point, so that it creates a demand where there's a bit of a bidding war. So I'm just ploughing those out at the moment. And then the odd kind of mixed commercial as well. A few weeks ago, and this is another auction property, financed fully by angel investors, so no faffing with bridging.
Good.
And this one, gosh, this is a corker of a deal. 85,000. I think it's 85,500 for an empty. It was a hair salon, empty salon, and 2 2-bed flats above.
Wow.
I know.
Where's that?
I know. I'm not telling you.
Okay.
File Coast. That's all you need to know.
Okay.
Nothing going on there.
Noted.
And the done-up value is 205 to 210, and I'll spend 40 on it.
Wow.
And it'll cash flow 750.
Keeping that one then.
Keeping it.
Nice.
Yeah. So if the goal is like a few more of those, keep firing out the flips. Lovely stuff.
Happy days.
Happy days.
What's the sort of reason for doing more flips than sort of buying and holding now?
Boredom.
Okay, fair enough.
just I find I work best when I've got laser focus. So when I started, it was the HMOs and they were joint ventures. And then I realised I didn't really enjoy them actually. And then I went back to basics, started working with private investors, and set myself a goal that I wanted my bills paid solely by buy-to-lets because they're just so stable, pretty recession-proof. Especially where I buy, it's like cheaper property prices. Even when interest rates have gone up, they still cash flow really well. Like just, really like safe investments. So I just tunnel vision. We just did buy-to-lets, saw some, kept most. And then once I got to that point, I kind of moved to mixed commercial. Then I moved to serviced accommodation. And now I've moved to flips because I just think if you know exactly what you're looking for, they're just easy to find, especially like I've got such a busy brain. If I'm looking for too many things, I end up going around in circles, exhausting myself, doing nothing.
Yeah.
So I just think like tunnel. So that's just how I've ended up at flips is I've done the other strategies and now I'm like, let's have fun and just make lump sums.
Yeah. That's the great thing about flips. But also it is
thrilling.
quite frustrating as well because you have to deal with the solicitors on the front end and the back end.
Really frustrating.
That's the downside to flipping.
Yeah.
And timescales can be like anything from 6 months to 18 months in worst case scenarios.
Absolutely, which is why I'm sticking with the first time buyer market because they tend to be a little bit more straightforward where they want their keys tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like they've no chain. Their mortgages just seem to be a lot easier as well. I've got one that I'm selling to an investor. Honestly, it's just beyond a joke in terms of like the way that they're getting questioned by the lender. It's gone on and on and on. They're now on their 3rd extension of the mortgage offer. Honestly, it's just, and now I've just got to that point where I'm like, let them, because I can't control it. I can't control the legals on their side and all of that stuff. So it's, but it's very frustrating.
This too shall pass.
But the relief though, when it actually comes, I'll be like, elated.
Next one.
Joy.
Forgotten already.
Yeah,
on to the next one.
I've got the money.
So on the point of money then, and know you mentioned it on Callum's podcast as well, I'm using that as a good reference point because hopefully this builds on that interview. You mentioned that kind of blocker for raising finance initially was something that you had to overcome. What was that process for you, and what tips would you give to someone that's kind of in that position now?
To raise funds?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just didn't think it was possible for someone. Well, and the thing is, whatever situation someone's in, they will apply what I say now to them. So we all have haven't done any deals, have no experience, don't even own my own home, don't have any security of my own, don't have any money, had all of these blockers. But I played to my strengths where I could find deals. That's always been my superpower. I've been really good at hunting out deals and stacking the figures, doing my due diligence, and always been very good at keeping the emotion out of the figures and just doing the do with it. A lot of people go, how do you find the deals? I can't find any. And then the simple question is, well, how many houses have you viewed? Go and view a house. Basic stuff. But a lot of people just don't do it. Just do the basics. And if you do it enough and you get good at just spotting them. So to go back to your question, I got good at finding deals, and I just positioned it as, do you want to invest in this deal? It was never can you give me money? It was I've got a deal that's going to make both of us money. This is an opportunity for me, but also for you. And I always positioned it from that point. And especially when I started, if I was raising the full amount, it would be first charge, everything, just what can I give you so that you have maximum security. And just putting it out there, asking of people, speaking, feeling uncomfortable and putting myself in that uncomfortable position enough times. And then eventually it started to become a game, and it was quite fun. And I started to just play with it a little bit and sort of go, I wonder how long it will take to fund this deal. And sometimes I'd have 2 people that would want to invest, and I'd be like, sorry, already raised the money. Do you know what I mean? And then say to people, I'll give you first refusal on the next one. And then it just starts to become really fun where I'm okay, I've got another pot there actually, and I can go and find another deal to match it.
How did you come about your first investor then?
So my first investor was a joint venture partner.
Right.
I met him at a networking, it was a gala in London, at the Savoy for Asset Academy. They've been called loads of things, but it was for that property. That's who I did my property training with.
Okay.
And it was £250 a ticket. And I was and also don't forget I was a full-time singer at the time. So that would be when I would earn my maximum amount of money. It was a Saturday night because I could stack my gigs. So, I wasn't going to go. And then someone said to me, you need to start acting like the person you want to be. And the person you want to be would be at the Savoy in London, speaking to people, making contacts and raising finance. She wouldn't be singing in pubs in Blackpool. And I was like, fine. So I took the night off, obviously paid for the hotel and the travel, got well excited because I was at the Savoy, so downed all the free champagne. and then I thought the one thing I've always been quite good at, and I think it's because I'm a performer, is advertising myself as a product. And what I mean by that, it's now it still frustrates me when people are handing out business cards and they're just generic, boring cards. Why have they not got a picture of themselves on there?
Interesting. Yeah.
Put a picture of yourself. So I did that from day one. I put a picture, and it was my acting one where I'm all I'm looking all pouty and suggestive, but also professional.
Of course.
Because I wanted people to remember, oh, that's that girl from Blackpool. What's the point handing out generic business cards when no one's got a clue who you are? So there I am in London, shit-faced, handing out the business cards with my mugshot on, telling everyone I could find deals. Literally, that was just my only point is I'm just going to tell everyone I can find deals because I could. And I was obviously having this conversation that I can't remember with this guy who I'm really still good, really good friends with now. And he phoned me the next day and he was like, it was great chatting with you. You said you could find deals. Well, I'm in a position, I have funds if you wanted to go with joint venture. And he said, could you send me over a proposal? And I'd never done a proposal before. Bearing in mind I'm a singer. So I was like, yes, I'll get it over tonight. I put together the worst proposal you have ever seen in your life. It was like a 10-year-old put this proposal together. It was all multicoloured font. for us because I like colour.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to make this bright and colourful. And there was like different fonts, different size fonts. It was an attack on the eyes.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. But I managed to very clearly state the deal, the figures, and I'd like negotiated these houses down to 79 grand. They were worth 140, cash flowing £1,000 a month each. So I'd clearly put that in. The rest was an absolute shit show, to be honest. But he saw it and was like, looked beyond the, amateurness of me. But I think he liked the creative aspect. I think he's a wise owl, and I think he clocked like this girl can, she doesn't put a good proposal together, but she's got all of these other skills.
Yeah.
And that was the start of it. He just instantly was like, these are amazing, let's go. And then we just rolled them out.
Amazing. I mean, that's just an example in itself to just get started. It
Just
doesn't
do it, yeah. Everyone wants to be perfect. There's no such thing.
No.
And it's boring, isn't it?
Absolutely.
No one wants it.
No. I always say perfection can only be found in hindsight. I've got a lot of phrases, you see.
You're full of quotes.
Like oracle or whatever they call it.
Literally, you need to write a book of all the quotes you picked
Probably
up.
to be fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't lay claim to any of them, right?
But still, very good.
Good stuff. So in terms of then, I suppose, bringing the deal together, the 50-50 JV, I suppose your investor relationships have evolved from that point, but it was that first step that you've kind of taken now. Are you doing any JVs now? Is it just purely loan and I'm buying?
Yep. No joint ventures, purely private investors on loan agreements. Nice and simple. Everything in my name, full control.
I think it's sensible.
Yeah.
That's the evolution, I suppose, of getting more confident with raising money and not having to give away equity. But I think in some cases, equity does work if the deal's quite risky or...
100%. Especially if it's a flip and there's a clear exit. I think, why not? Especially if people are starting out, because 50% of something is better than 50% of nothing.
Absolutely.
So I think it's perfectly fine.
100%. So this year, it's just purely focusing on flipping properties.
Yeah, and a bit of mixed commercial.
Okay.
Like the one that I've just done. A few blocks of flats, that type of thing I'm up for.
Nice. What's your kind of methodology to finding deals?
I've got a lot of contacts that I draw on. I get a lot of people message me directly saying, and locally.
Yeah.
Just saying, you buy, you're interested in this. So I'm quite fortunate in that. It's not huge amounts, but it's enough to sink my teeth into. But then just the same as everyone else, I am on Rightmove. I've got a bit of direct to vendor stuff, not huge amounts. I'm in the auction houses and on Rightmove, and I'm just doing the do. Just the same as everyone else.
It's really that simple.
Yeah, like I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So I know my niche, I know my market, I know my price point. And there's a lot of stock at the moment. It's, after COVID, it was really difficult because there was nothing to view and everyone was getting in bidding wars. And if we were having this conversation then, it would be a totally different conversation. But we're having a conversation in February 2025 where there is shed loads of stock and it literally is a numbers game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is that simple, yeah.
Yeah,
it is.
It is. It's a buyer's market at the moment.
100%.
It's I would say we're going through a level of stagnation. That's what I think is sort of happening. People aren't willing to bring the price down to where they were because post-COVID, it was absolutely mental.
Yeah.
I think you could have put your garden shed on Rightmove and that'd have
Honestly,
have
what
sold.
a time to be alive if you're selling. People were buying, holding, sticking it back on the market and making 50 grand doing nothing.
There was no intelligence behind it whatsoever. It was just completely...
It was nuts. I was like this, just watching it going, this is mental behaviour. And a lot of people are going to be in negative equity. And here we are, not selling. People that are then in that position where they're trying to sell something, especially in your areas that are your more lower end areas. I was just watching it thinking, this is crazy, especially when people are overpaying for properties that need work. Fair enough, if they're buying something that's done and it's modern and they're just going to live there and enjoy it, I think, okay. But for people that were paying too much for properties that then need a full renovation, and you're looking just going, the figures don't stack. Like, what are you buying that for?
Yeah.
It's insane.
I remember literally messaging the estate agent I had a good relationship with, saying like, if something comes up, this was like when COVID emerged. I was like, if something comes up, let us know. If we just fortunately sold a couple of flips, which hindsight we should have held it.
Yeah.
And we were kind of in that position, and he was like, mate, you don't understand. Like, we are selling stuff before and we've got 7 viewings booked on this studio flat that's got no windows, and we pretty much sold it off, like, just outrageously stuff.
And the agents are like
literally
thinking it's going to last forever, and I'm just rolling my eyes like,
and now they're like
back. Now they're back. I know. So funny how confident they were. Honestly, it's just crazy. I'm so busy, and then just like, give it a few years, pal.
And now it's come back.
And now all of a sudden they're like ringing.
Exactly that. I mean, that's the, I suppose, evolution of markets, isn't it? And
100%. And it's just being able to recognise that. And what I found like most sort of worrying is the level of people that are supposedly investors that didn't seem to recognise that we're just at the top of the cycle. And they were getting involved in the craziness and didn't have the awareness to just... They just blew my mind, to be honest.
Yeah, it was kind of like, I don't even know what happened. Just a
shortage of stock.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Just a shortage. So too many, like, so many people looking to buy and not enough stock. So the rubbish that was on the market, people were just getting in bidding wars, because at that moment in time, for them, there is no other property. It's that or nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they think it's going to last forever.
It was a supply and demand situation, wasn't
it? But
it?
this too shall pass.
Yeah, you're learning. I like it. You can come again.
I'm a quick learner.
Amazing. So I suppose if people want to potentially look at investing with yourself, or they want to talk to you about potentially coaching and what that looks like, how can people follow the journey?
So I'm most active on Instagram.
Yep.
If you want to put my handle in, it is at thegoodlife_property investor. And I've got a website, which is just my name, KristinaCastellina.co.uk. Everything is on there. Also, as well, worth a mention, if anyone is looking for an amazing place for like a birthday celebration or stag or hen, I own a gorgeous place called Empress Hall.
Okay.
In Blackpool, Sleeps 20.
Nice.
And it is a very special place. Just Google it.
Does that mean you need 20 friends to go? Or?
Well, up to 20. Right. Don't need to. You could go with sometimes I go with my family, just the 6 of us, and it's really nice.
Exciting. Well, I'll put your details in the show notes.
Perfect.
And also a link to how someone can book onto your hotel as well.
Yes, thank you so much.
I suppose that's what it is. Okay.
Well, Airbnb.
But
yeah.
Same but different.
Same but different. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Good stuff. Well, thank you very much for tuning into this episode. Hopefully you've had some good insights from Kristina today. There's definitely some good sides and bad sides to property, and it's not all just plain sailing, but certainly if you get it right, it can be very fruitful. So as I always say after every episode, please do like and subscribe, and do leave a review on the audio version. It always helps. Thank you very much. I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.